It was with a sense of excitement and relief as crews and supporters made their way to Baringo in Kenya's Central Rift Valley for the 2021 Rhino Charge off-road event, which raises funds to support the Rhino Arc Kenya Charitable Trust. For the first time in its 31-year history, the 2020 Rhino Charge had been cancelled following the outbreak of the COVID-19 global pandemic. Strict protocols were put in place to allow the 2021 edition to go ahead, with anyone arriving at the venue having to show they had had either a vaccine or a PCR test within 72 hours prior to arriving. Every year, the event changes location to minimise the impact on environment and to support conservation initiatives and communities around the country. The 2021 edition was hosted by the Sabor and Bekibon communities in Baringo County, an area of Kenya not just famous for its stunning scenery, lakes and mountains, but also for its honey, and the bees would be one of the challenges competitors would need to be wary of. The previous event was held in 2019 at the Nanapa Community Conservancy to the west of Samburu in Kenya's arid north. Team 48, led by Mark Glenn, claimed back-to-back victories in a close-fought battle with Team Huzi, who scored their best result to date. Team 42 had returned after a hiatus to claim the final podium position. Taking the accolades in 2019 for the highest fundraisers once again went to Team 23, led by Peter Kinyua, who had raised an incredible 19 million Kenya shillings. They were joined on the podium by Team AK44 and the Magnet Chargers. These teams would once again stun the Rhino Charge community with their fundraising efforts in 2021. In 2021, the event had been forced to move from its traditional dates on the first weekend of June to the middle of July, following the easing of lockdown restrictions in Kenya. The headquarters were situated on the edge of a plateau with stunning views across the venue, ready to welcome the Chargers for another epic event. Scrutineering is the first port of call as the cars are checked to make sure they conform to the event regulations, with two main classes for modified and unmodified cars. The event is won by achieving the shortest distance possible by driving in the straightest line between checkpoints scattered around the bush. GPS tracking systems are installed on each car, which also allow the organisers to monitor the teams and deploy emergency services to any team in difficulty. The defending champions were back with a new colour scheme and raring to go following the 2-year break since their last victory.
We're going to try and go straight on another, hopefully keep the car in one piece. Nothing too crazy. We added disc brakes this year. We didn't have disc brakes before. Where car's 8 inches wider on either side, so 16 inches wider. So hopefully more stability. Our car was pretty unstable before. It used to terrify me going down steep inclines to kind of wobble around. But no, so this year is going to hopefully be a good one for us. So let's see how we go.
The extra time away had allowed teams such as 6 times winners, Team 42, time to modify and improve their cars.
It's been way too long. We're all really excited to be back out here in Kenya's wilderness, raising money for a good cause and being with friends and Rhino charging community. It's really exciting, Couldn't wait to get out here, I guess. We've not been sleeping in the last 2 years. We've changed the whole axle system. We've gone to Volvo drop-down axles from the standard Range Rover, which has given us a bit more ground clearance. It's also allowed us to go slightly smaller on the wheels, which is less strain on the drivetrain system. So hopefully it's a good balance between clearance and smaller wheels.
Mark Tilbury has competed in 24 charges in the unmodified class with his hog charge team. He was back again in his trusty Land Cruiser to challenge for class honours.
I think that's what the spirit of the charge, how it started with the unmodified cars, and I think it's more of a challenge. If we get round, it's an achievement, whatever our position. I mean, we have to really pick our route carefully and realise what we can do and what we can't do. At least with the rear winch now, that we've got one, if we do go somewhere and we can't go down, continue, we can actually get ourselves back again, which was a big problem before. You know, we always had to check there was a route out before we went down anything.
Team 55 were back after experiencing their first charge in 2019 and ready to put lessons learnt into practice.
I think we need to work harder in terms of running. I think there is a point we almost gave up, but we managed to finish at least 11 checkpoints. Basically, reading the terrain well, that is where we missed a bit, but I think now we are good to go.
The Magnet Chargers were back with a new car after discovering their previous mount was beyond repair. They were fortunate that Team Rhino Sirius had also decided to build a new car and were able to offer them their car they had prepared for 2020.
Magnet Chargers! Woo!
Drivers' briefing was held at HQ with teams forming a semicircle with their cars to listen as event director Don White welcomed them to the venue and explained some of the additional points of information for this year's event.
Please treat the bees with great caution. They dislike revving engines, they dislike smoke and noise, and they can be very, very dangerous and very agitated. So the biggest risk to everyone at this venue is bees, and please treat them with utmost respect. I'd like to make a special mention of Colin Church, who passed away. From 2002 to 2012, he was the chairman of Rhino Arc. He oversaw the completion of the Aberdare Forest, and he dedicated his life and his work to the cause we all are here to support.
Teams were then handed their maps one by one before moving off to their camps to commence the all-important task of plotting the shortest route. The start point is drawn from a hat, with teams starting at different checkpoints.
We're starting in a river, which is always good for a waterproof car. That for now, and only for now, and briefly because my driver, Edward Johnston, finest driver in the world, okay, and finest sponsor in the world, okay, yeah, okay, usually puts this thing on its roof. And that's as far as we usually go. Anyway, beyond that, we're incredibly proud.
Navigation is the key to this event, where one wrong move can put paid to your challenge. A quick look at some of the different routes planned by various crews shows the variety of approaches and navigational decisions which were made depending on their start position and direction which they chose to tackle the course. Teams lined up pre-dawn on July the 17th, ready to be led out to their start controls. The woes of the previous 18 months were temporarily forgotten as the excitement of being back at the charge, ready to tackle the day ahead, took over.
The feeling in the car is great this morning.
You're all excited and charged.
Bright and early, wide awake, all excited. Yeah, I think we have a good charge. It's going to be a tough country, but we'll have a good charge.
As teams moved out towards their start control, they got a first chance to see what lay ahead. Excitement slowly turning to trepidation as reality dawned and the realisation that this is going to be another hard day's work. This year would see the oldest car in the event making a welcome debut. The 1947 Willys Jeep entered under the aptly named Jeepers Creepers.
Charge Virgins. Okay, your first impression as you drove in here?
The roads are challenging enough, let alone the bush. But
the bush might be easier.
It took me about an hour to actually get myself back to understanding how to plot a map and use a GPS yesterday night. But it looks like we're on point now.
This would be the last year the Bushbucks would be taking part in the charge after more than 20 events. With an international crew and some last-minute welding the night before, they were all set for a last run at finishing the charge. At the Kenya Forest Service guard post, the Senator for Baringo County, Honourable Gideon Moy, was on hand to see for himself what it takes to be a charger. Peter Kanyua was happy to give the Senator a short brief on what's needed and a taste of life in his office for the day.
yes, the speed it moves at, right? Yeah. And then compressor. It's like the filling air.
At 7:30, the Senator flagged off the cars with the start being relayed across the venue by radio. Peter Kanyua had opted to go clockwise and was seen heading off towards Sandstorm, saving the gauntlet for later in the day. Alan McKittrick was quick to show his intent as he smoothly traversed the river leading out of Satao. However, shortly afterwards, son Graham caught his hand in the winch and the team would have to go on without him. The Hatarius Chargers took a slightly different line and had a chance to warm up their winch early in the morning before also heading off towards Slater. The Bushbucks wisely followed the track set by Team 5 down the narrow valley that would require a steep climb to get out of. The terrain around Satao and Solex was a mix of river valleys and steep climbs. Overnight rain meant that these would also be slippery, providing an additional challenge. AK-44 began with a steep climb out of Solex as they headed towards Mantek, which was a challenging first leg to begin the day. They had started together with the Bundu Fundis, and both teams had opted to go clockwise. Coming anti-clockwise after starting at Mantek were Team 48, who would be facing all the day's obstacles in the opposite direction. They had already had to do some winching to get over the ridge before dropping down to Solex.
First two stages, it's quite hectic in here, but made it through. Winched up a bit there, but all good for now, so we'll see. A few bee stings already.
Yeah? Flow of bees?
pairs?
Yeah, a couple of pairs been stuck a couple of times. Yeah, we're all right, we're good.
This year's controls would not be providing the usual refreshments, and so supporters would need to be on hand to give food and drinks to keep their team's energy levels up. The girls in pearls were well prepared and once again having a thoroughly enjoyable day out.
We are enjoying it. Already tired. You're already tired? No way. No, we are enjoying it thoroughly. We have been charging quite a bit,
Over at KFS, Team Hoosie were also making good early progress as they winched their way up the hill coming from Vineyard. This was an interesting choice of direction, with most crews opting to go from Vineyard to Auto Express and would only be attempted by 4 other teams. Having started at KFS, the Bush Babes headed straight towards the gauntlet as they set about challenging for the unmodified class honours. Regular winners of the Coup de Dame, they were showing they were an equal match for any of their rivals. Team 32 were going in the exact opposite direction, winching up the hill as the Bush Babes were coming down. They had wisely chosen to go anti-clockwise, which allows them to drop down the hill from Toolcraft and take a less direct climb up to KWS, saving some heavy winch work for later. On just their second charge, Team 55 had opted to go clockwise from Vineyard. They chose to climb up to KWS first, before backtracking to Auto Express. Their route from Auto Express to Toolcraft offered a slightly gentler climb than the line from KWS that many other teams chose.
So how was it coming down that cliff?
It's on hell, man.
The charging hippos were following a similar line to the Bush Babes, but would take a more direct descent from KWS to Auto Express. Multiple winners, the KTM Cruisers, had opted to follow the riverbed from Vineyard before taking a less aggressive line up to KWS. It was early in the day and they were getting back into their stride. Team Phoenix Rising's day began with a good line from Vineyard. They then took an unusual route going left from Auto Express, climbing up to KWS from a different direction.
We made some new roads. We really charged. We didn't use too much the river. So we are quite okay and happy. Till now, everything is okay.
In the unmodified class, the Hog Charge team were making steady progress through the challenging terrain. Without the benefit of long wheel travel and high ground clearance, crossing the rocky river gullies was a difficulty and required frequent winch work. It wasn't long before Team 57 ended up with the traditional roll to get the day on track. Fortunately, no one was injured and they were able to continue. The deranged Rovers had started at Mantec. Heading to their first control at Solex, the gearbox overheated and they lost all drive. Fortunately, after letting it cool down, they were able to get going and arrived to cheers from their support team. The Danish team were en route from Slater when they encountered the Braeburn 7 Squared team, who were heading in the opposite direction from Solex to Mantec. The Braeburn team were staying straight and making good progress with a trouble-free run.
Have you seen how high they are?
Team 1 were battling their way over the ridge near Solex, but would soon arrive at the control after a good line from Mantec. The Gumtree team, seen here halfway between Solex and Mantec, were going straighter than ever in their unmodified Land Rover. They beat their rivals on this sector by over a kilometre. Car 46 were in trouble early with an overheating issue and were forced to wait whilst a spare fan was brought to them by their support crew. Less than 400 metres away, the Bushcats were also stranded with a broken steering, losing several hours whilst they waited for a team member to have it repaired. Once going again, they dropped down into the river valley, where they once again got stuck, this time with broken half shafts. Eventually, they made it out, getting around to 8 guard posts by day end.
What happened? You broke the steering off?
Yeah, but then the half shafts have gone as well. Too hard on the car, I guess.
Former winners, the Smiling Shenzis, had also lost time with a broken steering, but once repaired, they were back to charging hard in a straight line. Team Oli Choda have 3 decades of charge experience under their belts and were once again challenging for overall honours with some aggressive straight lines. The Bush Rover team won the Tiger Line between Aquamist and KFS. They were one of only 2 teams who attempted this sector, having almost arrived at Aquamist from Vineyard before changing direction and going to Copycat. They were keeping the tracking team entertained. Having a trouble-free run were Team Choms, making their way to Toolcraft on the gauntlet. Team Rhino Sirius had decided to build a new car from scratch during the long break between events and were delighted with the car's performance. Seen here working towards Copycat on their way to a stellar top 20 finish.
Okay. Come.
Also working their way towards Copycat, the deranged rovers were mindful of the fact only 3 bolts were holding on the hub, which was now supported with a check strap to keep it in place.
How you do it?
Team AK44 set the 3rd shortest distance on the Tiger Line between Tyre World and Toolcraft, with a broken fan belt being their only issue so far. Going in the opposite direction, however, Team Husi won the Tiger Line by 300 metres as the competition hotted up. Team Taz were having an enjoyable day out before arriving at the gauntlet. After realising their chosen route was impossible, they attempted to reverse back up, falling into a huge hidden hole that turned their car onto its roof. Unfortunately, their day would end there, despite getting the car back on its wheels. The rock crawler of Team 11 were having no such issues and dropped down the riverbed on what was becoming a well-worn route. The King 21s were having an excellent day. Having started at Mantec, they had already completed 4 sectors by mid-morning. Undaunted by the almost vertical bank, Team 48 pulled out the winch and powered their way out of the river. It's not always smooth sailing, even for five-time champions, and they were lucky to get away with this little moment, much to the delight of the spectators. Not to be outdone, Team 64 were keen to show their car's abilities as they soon followed suit, winching their way up the same bank. In the battle for the unmodified class, the Danish team were still making strong progress, but would be forced to use the road later in the day to make up time and ensure they reached all 13 guard posts. Halfway through the day, Bees would put paid to the gauntlet challenge between KWS and Auto Express. Team 42 were forced to abandon their car when the tree they attached their winch to contained a hive that had already been disturbed. The Bees then went on a swarm, attacking spectators at the gauntlet. Eventually, using a bee suit, the team recovered the car, but were only able to complete another 3 guard posts. The organisers were forced to send remaining teams around, effectively cancelling the straight line and giving all teams a nominal distance of 839 metres.
Jump off a cliff.
Team Husi had earlier recorded a distance of 414 metres, which could have been the shortest distance. Likewise, the Bundu Fundis had also taken a very straight line as they continued their quest for overall honours, shaving corners off their rivals' tracks.
Out!
The Braeburn 7 team had made good use of their winch to stay as straight as possible and would be rewarded with 7th overall. Team 39 had punctured their fuel tank on the 3rd sector of the day. They strapped a new tank to the bonnet and managed to get going, getting around all 13 guard posts and finishing 20th overall. Team 57 made it through the gauntlet despite a few bee stings, with one team member opting to run away to distract the bees. It worked, and they made it round to finish 8th overall. The Hatarius Chargers spent most of the day in 3-wheel drive after having to remove a broken shaft. The rock crawler barely noticed, and they kept going on the straight line. They were putting on a good show for the spectators. More used to challenging for the win, the Smiling Shenzis were forced to make up time, deviating from the straight line as they recovered from their earlier steering issues. They then rolled going up to KWS, but still managed 14th overall. Team Lanmawe were another team having an interesting day. Making steady progress despite the odd repair, they were another team who would fall foul of the bees. Approaching Sandstorm, they were attacked with one team member having to be evacuated back to the medical centre at HQ. They managed to continue, but eventually got stuck on a hill near Solex. KFS proved to be an entertaining guard post, with the steep climb providing plenty of work for the winches. Car number 1 were having a fantastic charge as they made their way up to the checkpoint. They would go on to finish 9th overall after a trouble-free run.
It's been really good fun so far. We're really hoping we're on number 6 now. We need to get to number 13, so it's all stations go, ready to go.
Team Kifaru Kwanzaa fixed a cracked diff with putty. They then removed and straightened the steering rod, losing them lots of time. They eventually made it to 11 guard posts. The girls in pearls, seen here making their way along the river to Mantek, had a fun day out, taking some interesting detours to enjoy the local scenery, but nonetheless visiting several guard posts along the way. As the clock starts to wind down towards the end of the day, the pace gets more frantic and teams have to choose between staying the course or cutting and running. The Danish team had some work to do as they arrived at Tyre World, the consequence of some serious charging that kept them in touch with the class honours. They were soon on the move again though. The Hog Charge team were keeping the Danes honest though, as they too continued to charge hard throughout the day. Team Husi arrived at Satao with 2 sectors left to complete to get back to their start control at Copycat. Time was tight, but they weren't deterred as they continued to follow the straight line to Aquamist. Coming in the opposite direction were Bundu Fundis. They had just 1 sector left but would be cutting it fine, finishing with just minutes to spare. Likewise, the frying squad were on a mission to complete all 13 guard posts, incurring some road penalties in the process, but still bringing it home in 16th.
Alright guys, how are you getting on today?
We're good. We're Solex, huh?
Yeah?
Solex. Yeah.
So we're going to go park by the car there.
We're going to fill up.
The Bush Rover team were unlucky to miss out on their final control despite a valiant effort, but winning the Tiger Line is a great consolation. They finished 27th overall.
Winching katika mawe iko kwa barabara.
We're good at digging them out.
How are you doing? Traffic jam iko.
Team Choms arrived at Satao with the clock running out. Missing out on 2 guard posts, they ended the day just behind the Bush Rovers.
You're almost done?
2 left, yeah. So 1 more and then our start point.
Team 5 were welcomed back to Satao after completing the course with time to spare. They had lost a crew member at the start of the day when his hand got caught in the winch, but nonetheless they still finished 6th overall and were also the 4th highest fundraisers.
A lot of fun, quite technical, quite a lot of winching in the morning.
Yeah.
We managed, maybe driving better in the afternoon. We avoided a lot of winching, but a lot of winching in the morning.
Excellent.
The Hatarius Chargers made it back to Satao with minutes to spare. Despite struggling with 3-wheel drive all day, they recorded their best result with a remarkable 4th overall. They will surely be back next year to challenge for the win.
We did it! We straight-lined it a lot.
Fantastic.
A lot.
Good day out there.
I really hope we get a good result.
Excellent. Well done, Bona. Well done.
Okay, where's the beer? Who has the beer?
Consistently one of the highest fundraisers, the Magnet Chargers once again had a great day charging. They were very pleased with their new car, which ran smoothly all day, and they would record their first finish on the event.
Yeah, we had a fantastic charge. And now that we had moved from the non-modified category to modified now, we have done all the checkpoints. We are happy about that. We found some guys who had been attacked by bees, but we moved on the other side, but we helped them with overalls so that they could recover their car.
As the day draws to a close and teams make their way back to HQ, there's always time to reflect on what could have been, what was achieved, and more than anything, how much fun was had on another incredible Rhino charge. Prize giving is held on the morning after the charge, where HQ once again provided spectacular views across the venue. Only this time, teams could look out on another day of memories made. Rhino Charge is at its heart a fundraising event, bringing together like-minded people with one goal: to protect Kenya's mountain water towers and forest ecosystems. In keeping with the ethos of supporting communities where the event's taking place by charging a land access fee, this year's event raised 5,069,000 shillings for the Sabor and Bekibon community. This year, the prize for the highest fundraiser once again went to Team 23, led by Peter Kinua, who managed to raise an outstanding 36.3 million shillings. This unbelievable sum, given the global economic situation, once again shows the commitment the team and their sponsors have towards conservation in Kenya.
Raising money for environment is challenging, but more and more people are willing to support conservation. I just want to say that also Team AK-44 did a great job. We thought we were ahead, but luckily yesterday evening also we got a call from His Excellency the President, who gave us 5 million shillings. He said that he is in full support of Rhino work and the work that we do.
Team AK-44, led by Adil Kawaja, took the honours for the second highest funds raised. They raised an outstanding 21.3 million shillings for the Rhino Ark. The magnet charges were third, also surpassing expectation by raising over 11.7 million shillings. Whilst the charge is a fundraising event, it is also a fierce competition on the day, and the accolade of winning the event for both the modified and unmodified teams is the other reason these crazy 4x4 enthusiasts take part. In the unmodified class, the top honours went to the Gumtree team, led by John Bowden. They had charged hard all day, winning the class by 8 kilometres, and were also rewarded with 15th overall, no small feat against the modified monster machines around them. Second went to the Danish team, led by Ole Vestergaard Johansen in their sturdy Land Cruiser. A fantastic effort from the all-ladies team, led by Petra Soman, saw the Bush Babes take the final podium position and the Coup de Dame award. After taking some very straight lines travelling in a clockwise direction, Team Hoosie would once again finish on the podium in third place. Still hunting for their first victory, they missed out this year by 900 metres. Hoping to make it a hat-trick of wins, Team 48 were forced to settle for second in 2021, but once again showed remarkable teamwork and navigational skills. No doubt they will be back to set the record straight next year. The overall honours, winners' trophy and first in the modified class in 2021 went to the Bundu Fundis. They won by 700 metres with some clever and calculated driving, always shaving a little off their rivals' tracks and keeping a good rhythm. This is their third victory, with their last win coming in 2013.
Oh man, it's amazing. You know, it's a great privilege to do this event, I find, every year, and you know, it means a lot to us. We've done it as a family for so many years. This is our 25th event, and you know, we've been blessed to be very competitive over a lot of years, and frequently it's second or third rather than first. And so this year I was, you know, for months I've been preparing mentally to try and, you know, win this one. And you know, even, you know, yesterday we had an amazing day. Like, you know, we didn't have any mechanical problems. We didn't take a spanner out all day. Car went like a dream. We kept pretty well to time. And yeah, when we finished, we just had a great feeling about it. But then again, we've had those feelings before. So to find out that we've won was just, yeah, it's amazing.
Every team that enters the Rhino Charge raises money for the cause. In 2021, Rhino Chargers raised an incredible 140,432,000 shillings. This equates to almost $1.3 million. These funds are raised for the Rhino Ark Kenya Charitable Trust, an organisation set up to safeguard Kenya's mountain water towers and forest ecosystem. For 31 years, this event continues to support Rhino Ark with its annual fundraiser. However, with the onslaught of the global COVID-19 pandemic, the cancellation of the 2020 Rhino Charge had a huge impact on Rhino Ark's ability to fund its legacy fence line projects on Mount Kenya and the Aberdare Mountains, as well as the Eburu Forest. Fundraising efforts by Rhino Ark to meet the shortfall created by the cancellation of the 2020 event have allowed the work to continue. Challenges such as landslides on the Aberdare Mountains, which damaged kilometres of the fence line, have been met. Over 10 kilometres of new fence line on Mount Kenya have been built, and Rhino Ark continues to support communities, finance ranger patrols and expand its project on the Eburu Mountain. This is further proof of the resilience and commitment of Rhino Ark to conservation in Kenya, and funds raised by Rhino Charge teams in 2021 will once again bring stability and assurance that these legacy projects will continue well into the future. As the dust settles on the 2021 event, teams are already looking forward to the challenge that awaits them in 2022. Cars will be fixed, modifications made, strategies improved, and funds will be raised. The dedicated team of volunteers that make up the Rhino Charge organisers are once again on the hunt for a new location, which will remain a secret as always until the very last minute. See you there.